Hello everyone, my name's David Edgar. I'm the host of Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, and welcome to a special winter break Q&A edition. Now, with no football, or real football, no Rangers anyway, till next week, we thought we'd ask the people on the chief executive tier of our Patreon to submit some questions and have a jolly good hour chewing the fat, going through them. And joining me today is the leader of the Dork Army, the king of the tactics spods himself, Mr. Adam Thornton. Adam, how are you? Just a week to go till we get Rangers back.
Hello, I'm very, very good, thank you. And yes, very much looking forward to Rangers coming back. It has been quite a good break, I think. I've enjoyed it. I would have liked Pittodrie and Parkhead where they were. Thank you very much. But the break itself has been good. Good to get a bit of downtime, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it.
Now, we probably won't get through all the questions that were submitted, folks. So if yours misses out, it's a first-come, first-served basis is the way we're doing it on. But we thank you anyway. We will try and get as many done as possible. And we'll kick off with one from Grant Snedden, who says, do you think there is a need for both Dwecky and Suter if we are successful in our pursuits of both?
I think it depends who goes out. It looks like Goldson will be going now. It would be a pretty big turnaround now if he changed his mind. Balogun will be 34 in the summer, has had or can't be relied upon to be fit, I think, more than 2 games in a row. I think he said that himself. He needs to manage himself. So if those two are going out, I'm not as big a John Suter fan as the entire Rangers support seems to be. I think he's fine. I don't think he's threatening the starting 11. I've seen people say he could replace Helander. I've seen people say he could be an English Premier League defender. I think he's just okay. He's played half a season at Hearts. I think people are getting a little bit ahead of themselves based on not a huge amount. So for me, he's coming in as a backup to start with. If he improves on that, absolutely fine. Dwecky, I think, looks to be a bit more of a higher calibre, Vitesse captain, etc. 23, so a great age to come in. He could be a Goldson replacement, but both of them coming in to replace Goldson and Balogun, I think it's probably still a wee bit of a decrease overall. You'd hope that Helander stays as well and kind of talks those two through it. I think we need those three in addition to obviously Bassey and King.
Yeah, there's a couple of things about this. Like, first of all, with pre-contracts, you're planning for next season. Brilliant if you can get them in January, but you've got to go on the assumption that you probably won't. So you are really signing these with a view to next season. I don't think Gio is particularly keen on players who need managed, Adam. I think that it's something that we saw with Al McGregor. It was something that didn't really get pulled, didn't really get mentioned that much. But when he initially arrived, one of the things he said was, no, the goalkeeper needs to play every week. And if he can't, then he can't play. And obviously Al McGregor can, as we've seen. So I think that might apply to defenders as well. I don't think Gio wants to be changing his centre-backs game to game because they can't play 2 or 3 in a row. So that might explain why maybe Balogun would be going. I think Phil's been unlucky with injuries, but we still have to take into account that he has missed a chunk of each season that he's been here, but he's still a very, very good player, and he's one you want in your team. I think they're both sensible bits of business. There will be, in this model, going to have to accept that at the start on a model like this, there is a bit of a decrease in the quality as you hopefully sell on a player for X amount and bring in somebody younger to replace him, and that might happen there. But I think both of them make sense. I'm of the generation, Adam, that just likes us signing central defenders from Hearts. It feels right. So I'm quite pleased with that. I do think Suter's got a chance. I really do, and I think he could improve under better coaching. But time will tell. And
I guess as well, you said like that's them moving into the model of Dwecky in particular. You buy at age 23. I'm sure we'll come to this later on, but you buy at age 23, you get 4-year deal. You sell him after 2 or 3 years maximum. He goes and he can have a good career and you can start it all again. So absolutely, when you buy younger, there will be a drop off in quality. I guess
at the start.
The hope is that the upside comes quicker than others.
Absolutely, yeah. And you try and manage it so that it's not happening across 7 positions at once.
Yeah.
But, you're able to bring in people and let them grow. But there will be you're not going to replace the guy who's leaving for 15, 20 million for 4 or 5 million.
No.
You're just not. So there's a reason one costs one and one costs the other. So there will be a slight drop off at the start, and it's about growing them. Richard McCluckey, what's the next best big business thing, in your opinion, that needs addressed at RFC, and why? I'll kick us off there, Adam. The ticketing website badly needs upgraded. It's complicated. It's odd. Everything's kind of there, but you need to go through 3 wee doors and a maze to find it. It needs simplified, streamlined, and made much more simple. Remove clicks. Golden rule for any website. How easy and quick is it? You should be able to do it in a couple of clicks, and that's what it needs to move to.
Yeah, there was one, I can't remember, Hibs sticks in my head. Maybe it was the semi-final where I put a ticket in my basket, and then to go and get the other ticket that I needed on another season ticket, I had to go all the way back to the email and click the email to go back through and get it added to the basket. There was no way to do that online, so I completely agree with you. I think the ticketing, I think my Ger's probably going to get hate in the comments, but broadly has been good, I think, in terms of, selfishly, I've had more tickets this year than I got a couple of years ago, just by the categories, so I'm quite happy with it from that side. I think it is a good move on that sense for the kind of average fan. But yeah, getting the actual process of buying up to speed would be very much appreciated. Yeah.
Jamie Gilchrist, did you send us an, Adam? A topic me and my mates were discussing at the weekend: best and worst Scran experiences at football grounds. I was in Prague and ordered a pint, and I was told if I added on a pretzel, the 3 pints would cost less than the cost of 1 pint. That's class. Jamie enjoyed that. Now, Adam is a foodie, a genuine, honest to God foodie. Tell him what I got you for Christmas.
You got me. What did you get me? I can't remember. You got me a rotisserie kebab, a kind of rotisserie kebab thing for inside the house, which is a very good gift for being inside, because I've got a barbecue, but that's outside, and I don't like to be outside. I much prefer to be inside, especially in this weather. So having something where I can cook meat on a spit indoors is genius.
Best and worst Scran experiences at football grounds. That's a toughie. A bad one is, for official media partners of the club who pay thousands and thousands of pounds for our official media access right. There's no bloody food at half time. I know that sounds like I'm moaning, folks, right? But we're not after a freebie here. We actually do pay to get into these games, and we can't even get a cup of tea at half time, Adam, which is a disgrace.
No water either. Basic human right.
Water. Yeah, so there is that. There's been some toppers when I've went to junior ground. One wasn't following Rangers, it was following Kilwinning Rangers, my local junior team. Burgers in inverted commas, and it was square slice with a bit of cheese on it for the cheeseburger, and the processed cheese, which was an interesting combo. Most certainly did not count as a burger. The best probably had was in, you were there with me, Brøndby. When
that's true,
it was like the noodles and it
was like a cold beef noodle salad, very Scandinavian. We won't heat it up for you. We'll have all this fresh food, but you're eating it cold.
Oh, and I mean fruit and all the rest of it and stuff. It was some set up there.
That was definitely That's good. Definitely the fanciest I think I've had in terms of best. I was going to say I'm sure I've had a sausage or two in Germany, but I will ditch that joke. Certainly Hertha Berlin or Union Berlin, I'm sure I got a currywurst at the game, which would be one of my top 5 foods anyway, so I'm going to go for that. Here, I vaguely remember the Murrayfield game that we played against Hearts. I'm sure they had the nicer takeaway stands outside the game there. I'm pretty sure I got a decent burger there, but yeah, few and far between in this country, I would say.
I always enjoy the Bridie at Dunfermline. It's a nice bit of business, the Bridie there. They go quite quickly, so you need to go before you need to go at the start of the game or they're gone, because our fans were like gannets, man. So you've got to get that then. If you wait to half time, you probably won't get one. John Smith asks, what's the best and worst away day you've ever had, domestic or European? I'll give you a moment to think about it. Best away day for me, Kilmarnock, 2011, when we won 54, was just wonderful. I was actually in the home end, so I don't know, does that count as technically away day when you're in the home end? But remember saying to my mate, right, keep the heat. If we score, we're in enemy territory, shut your mouth, and we'll celebrate at half time. No bother, David. 30 seconds in, Big Kyle laps onto one, lifts it over the keeper, and the two is just because we were so tense, like, yeah! And then we kind of sat down, but then realised that 80% of the whole stand was doing the same. So that would probably be my best.
I was at Helicopter Sunday, so it's definitely between the two of those. I was also on the home end for Kilmarnock, as you said, but Helicopter Sunday for me has to be best. I've never seen Rangers win away in Europe, so for that reason, probably still would be Helicopter Sunday, but I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, worst, it would be a lower division one. I remember we went to play Annan, and we go down, and Annan's a perfectly nice wee stadium, a park really, that's no built to hold a Rangers away support. So you get into the game and you walk in and we couldn't see. We just couldn't see, So we walk a bit, couldn't see there, went behind the goals. You genuinely, if you're behind the goals, you could see the goal, but you couldn't see the corner flags. Mm-hmm. So we had to eventually climb up on fences, and I'm sort of clinging to it like Spider-Man. And I'm looking about and we're, having this complete clusterfuck of a performance against Annan on a plastic pitch, and it's freezing. And then I see all these bears streaming out, and I was like, where are you going? They went, can't you see it? Game's on in the pub. And I was like, what are we doing? Is this what life is now? And then it was. And it was just that realisation of where we were at that time. So I think that, nothing against Annan, perfectly nice wee place, but it was hellish.
I refuse to entertain any banter years recommendations on these ones for myself. So I've been Bratislava away was an experience. When I was 19, 20, the weather was horrendous, so that would put it as bad. Obviously, the result was not great.
2 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you're away in Europe when I was 19 or 20, so I don't think I could really class that as a bad away day. Same with Progress, the second one, thankfully, it was a 0-0, pretty rubbish game itself. But again, it's a trip, so it's kind of good overall. Can I say Hampden? I'm going to say League Cup final 2019. That is just lasered into my brain as being the worst I've felt.
You were so drunk.
So drunk and so fuming. So I think I'm going to go with that. I remember.
Yeah, we will share a moment between us. I remember you said something to me, and I said, Adam, I'm not talking to folks, I don't drink. I said, I'm not talking to you tonight. I'm just talking to the drink here. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And you sent me about 25 increasingly angry messages. Why won't you talk to me?
I was furious.
He was a little, what's that line in Pulp Fiction? He was a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker at that point. He was angry.
Oh, it was that was just one of those ones that just stung for weeks and months after it. Straight into a pandemic as well, which was good.
Still does a bit, although thankfully we picked up a bit from there.
Yes,
we've been pretty good since. Watson Bell, after comments in the press over the weekend about the 3 international call-ups rule, why exactly are Reschedule FC, the finest attacking team ever, apparently scared of playing us? Can I just chuck this theory out there, Adam, and I'll put it out there for you to throw into your mental microwave and see if it pops. They know that if they lose that game, that's it this year, pretty much. They know that Rangers will just do what we did last year and romp over the hill. And that's why it's just this over fear about absolutely everything going into it, because for us it's, as always in an Old Firm game, it's must not lose. For them it's must win and cannot lose, and I think that is why they are so, oh my god, we need to have all our players and we need to have everybody that's ever attended a game at Parkhead needs to be there. I think that's kind of fueling a lot of this.
Yeah, it's funny, you've seen that in the press as well. It was all, Celtic haven't got these players and they're all injured, and not a peep about the fact that 2 weeks ago Rangers had Davis, Jack, Roof, Helander, Balogun all injured, and we're just getting on with it.
Our injuries seem to be maybe because we do it, maybe because we go, well, still need to play.
I just forget as soon as somebody's injured, I just forget all about them. I thought it's like compartmentalisation. Just as I thought in my head, they're just gone until they're ready to come back. So I'm quite bad for that without actually realising, oh, that person's injured and that person's injured. I just forget about them until they come back, basically. But yeah, I think you're spot on. They need to win that game. They have been doing well. I think you could say. I think it was a stat. I don't know what podcast I shared it on, but say the last 10 or 12 games, they've only won one of them by more than one goal. So depending on whether you're positive or negative, they're grinding out, or it's the mark of champions. I don't think it's the latter personally. So they were struggling towards the end there, and we'll see when things come back. Even with their signings and even with a couple of players back, I wouldn't exactly be running scared, to be honest. So
Nah.
I would be happy to play them whenever.
That's probably the fundamental difference, isn't it? That we'd be right whenever. Just turn up, we'll play you because we'll beat you. Next one from Brett. He says, do you think that we might need to get used to managerial cycles the way we need to with players like Gerrard? If we have a manager that does well for 2, 3, 4 years, will we need to come to terms with they may also be in a short window?
Yes, that's a really good one. Actually, we don't have that experience really, or that thought, because the only two that have really done it are Souness and Gerrard, and it's kind of been a he's left us type situation, which is absolutely fine. But when you look at it in the broader context, it's moving on to what they perceive to be better opportunities, and how that works out remains to be seen. But absolutely, I think like players, and we'll come on to this again in a little bit, I think 3 years is quite nice. 4 years maybe, if a manager is really intent on that, not necessarily building a dynasty, but proving you can do it again. That thing that Alex Ferguson did, 4 times at Man United? Proving you can do it again, and you can rip a team up and start again, or even better, change a team without anybody actually realising until 18 months down the line, and you're like, oh, there's 7 players are different and they're still winning. So Klopp's doing that. Guardiola probably is getting to the point where he thinks he needs to be doing that. I think 3 or 4 years, you look at contracts, again, we'll probably discuss those as well. Player contracts are 4 years, really. After about 2.5 years, you start to negotiate. But by that point, it's either we really like this player, we want to keep him, we're going to give him 10, 15, 20 grand a week more, and he might stay, or else we really need to sell this player, or else the player wants to go. I don't see why it's any different for managers. We just think of that as a more long-term role, but that's where sporting directors come in now. They're the long-term vision of the role. The manager is, in essence, a hired help. I know we don't like that, but a hired help who will come in for 3 or 4 years, maintain something, build something, but it's very unlikely that we're going to see a manager being 8 to 10 years ever again, I think. You'd hope for the positive reasons, as in they take you from somewhere and they get you to a place and they have lots of great success, and then they move on to something else, rather than it being he's come in and hasn't really worked out and we're going to have to find someone else and rip it up and start again. So that's probably the 2 options, but you'd hope it would always be the former.
Yes, it's exactly as Adam puts it there. It's difficult for us because we're a club with 17 permanent managers in 150 years, and I'm proud of that. We all are. It's a wonderful stat. We're not a club that easily wants to change a manager. And something like the Pedro thing, where somebody comes in and 6 months later they're gone, that's absolutely not us. We hate that shit. But in modern football, unfortunately, and because of the league that we're in and the league that we're next to, I think you are into pretty much. There will be exceptions. You might get a dyed-in-the-wool Rangers man. You might get somebody who just absolutely adores his life in the city. But you're going to have a situation where if they do badly, they get sacked. If they do well, other clubs with huge budgets look at them. And if you're going to go for the type of managers that we have gone for the last 2 appointments, young, dynamic, big names, these are attractive people to clubs in bigger leagues with more money. It's a pain in the hole, but it is just here. There is also the thing about maybe modern footballs in general. This is a bigger discussion point that doesn't just apply to Rangers. After 2-3 years, they stop listening to managers because it is becoming rarer and rarer. And maybe you do need that fresh impetus. And probably something that backs up what we're saying is, look at the difference between the way the Gerrard team was playing and the way the Van Bronckhorst team is playing. Same team, same players. So the only thing that's changed was the message, and I think that sometimes it does need that freshening up. Big William Style says, do you think the sale of Patterson might improve the chances of getting new deals agreed for the likes of Aribo, Kent and Morelos? The situation with Goldson hasn't been ideal this season. I would not want to go into next season with several high-quality assets running their contract down. I don't think we will be. I think that they will either re-sign or go in the summer. Exactly for the reason that you said. I don't think Rangers want to have this hanging over them. But this is kind of the problem with giving players these deals, and Rangers were in a unique situation where at the start of last season, and the start of this season when these guys had 2 years in their deal, the idea of getting rid of them, there was no chance because we have been success starved. You can maybe be a wee bit more unsentimental, Adam, or a wee bit more, no, he can go and we'll buy somebody else when there's lots of trophies on the sideboard. But because of the decade we'd had, it was no, keep them, we need to win stuff first and then worry about it. But that won't be sustainable. You can't keep signing good players and letting their value decrease to zero. That's not the model that Rangers have repeatedly told us they want to do.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think in essence, again, it comes back to that 3 years point that Brett mentioned. We've missed a cycle in that. Ideally for Aribo, Kent, Morelos, last summer was the ideal time to sell those players. I don't mean as in Rangers. I mean those players were under 25. They had 2 years left on their deal. They're at their peak value for clubs who want to come in and get them. If you're 24, a club's going to come and give you a 4-year deal on lots of money. They will then try and sell you on when you hit 28, 29 because you're in the perceived peak, or you're coming into the peak or coming out of the peak, I should say. So for us, now that they are 25, there's a whole host of analysis that says that their values will start to decrease, and that is because clubs won't want to pick them up on 4-year deals, and then they'll be 30 by the time they're finishing that deal. So we've missed a cycle in that sense. We should have sold players like that last summer, but like you said, success starved. We want to keep them for a tilt at the Champions League. We want to have one more go this season or whatever. So we've missed a cycle there. So I think expecting that Aribo will go one summer for 30 million and then Kent will go the next summer and he'll sign a contract and do this and do that, I'm not sure it's going to happen. I think we might see one or two of these players possibly sit tight. I know we don't want to hear that, but possibly sit tight and go because we haven't sold them at the point that it was the maximum of their value. We haven't had bids as well, you could say, but given we were trying to hold them together, as you said, there's probably been bids that might have come in that we might have been able to bargain up the way if we'd showed that we were interested in selling. So I guess that's a bit of a catch-22, we'll never know. But for me, I would hope that they get new deals, but at the same time, I would also hope that we get the money that we deserve for those players and that cycle starts again that we mentioned. Where's the next Aribo, Kents and Morelos coming in at 21, 22? If we can get those players, I don't think any player is indispensable at the minute. Obviously, Tavernier, because Patterson isn't here, I guess you could say he is indispensable. But again, we go out and buy someone, they'll come in and learn their trade. I think that's absolutely fine. Tavernier is probably at the age where it is starting to get to the point where you're better kind of just keeping him and getting what you can from him for the next couple of years. But age comes into these things a whole lot, David, and it's probably one of the single most important tests with age. There's all that analysis that when you hit 30, you start to decrease. You've seen Arsenal famously, was that 10, 15 years ago? It would only be a 1-year deal they would give over 30. I think quite a few clubs do it now. I'm not really as strict as that. I think if you think about it, Davis, McGregor, Arfield all coming in over 30. There are people out there who wouldn't have bought those players because they were 31, 32, 33. So now we can get someone younger. I think it needs to be a case by case basis. If someone comes in, as those have done, and they improve the team, they give you the intangibles off the park as well, but they improve the team and they're better than what you've got there, I'd be all for bringing them in. We can't have a team full of 21, 22, 23-year-olds. It's just not the way things work when you have to win every game. So there's a balance to everything there. That's a wee bit of a long-winded answer to say, no, it probably won't. I think each of those three players' situations will probably see them either sold or continue.
I think because of, as I say, the kind of unique circumstances we've been in, even in our own club's history over the last wee while, that there have been these sort of exceptions and anomalies, and that is one of them, because under normal circumstances, you bang on 2 years to go, you sign a new deal, no, right, okay, Ovsky, we need to get as much money in for you as we can. I don't think it'll happen in these clumps again in the future, but as a concern, because these guys are, as you say, getting to stages where it's a worry, because they could sit tight for a year. There's nothing, you can't force somebody to go. There's various methods in football that we've all heard of, the bomb squad and things like that, but even so, it can be quite counterproductive. So yeah, it's a worry. It's not a situation I want or expect to see repeated in the future. But player power is such as well that when they do get to this stage of the contract, they kind of hold all the aces, really, because the decision then, if the club wants to keep them, obviously. If not, then completely different thing. But we'll need to sit back and see what happens with that. But I wouldn't want to be in a position, Adam, in 3 years' time where we've got 4 or 5 players running out of contract. I get why it's happened this time, but I don't want it happening again.
No, I think we need to, like we said, the cycle needs to start now. And any players that we're bringing in now, if we're bringing them in 4-year deals, it needs to be with the intention of we're going to keep these players for 2 years, sell them at the maximum, or we're going to try and get them on a longer contract.
Or they're going to sign another 2 years. Yeah, exactly. No, totally agree. Stephen Johnson asks, who do you think will be our goalkeepers next season? McGregor and McLaughlin both out of contract, and McCrory still largely untested. I think McLaughlin will still be here next season. McGregor, if he keeps playing the way he's playing and his body holds up, then I don't think they'll probably look at him or Davis until way towards the end of the season. And I think that both players know that and are cool about it because of age and circumstances. But that, as Adam mentioned in the last answer, that's pretty standard in football for a player of that age. So, I wouldn't rule out the possibility that both are still here this next season. McCrory's an interesting one. His career has there's a lot of promise, and a lot of people rate him very highly. Went out on loan to Livingston and did okay without, I think, really, turning many heads. But that happens at that age. He came in for those 2 huge matches, and I thought did very, very well in both of them. So if we are going to sign somebody, he needs to be better than the 2, because I think at least 2 of that 3 will remain. He needs to be better than them. If not, why you bother signing him? And that's why some of the names mentioned, I know that, for instance, Zander Clark was linked in. Look, really good SPFL goalie. He's not a Rangers goalie. Sorry, I know he's a big Rangers fan, good guy, wish him all the best, but not a Rangers goalie. And that's my only thing, Adam. If you're signing a keeper, just make sure he's better than what you've got. If you can't get better than what you've got, or you won't pay for better than what you've got, there's no point.
Yeah, I think McGregor might go this year. I'm not really sure why. I think he might just, especially if we win the league and things again, I think that might just be time. I know we've got the Champions League hopefully coming up as well, but for me, I think he probably might just think the time is right this summer. I don't know if I'm in a minority or not, but I would be absolutely fine with John McLaughlin as the goalkeeper for a couple of years. I think he's proved he's literally not put a foot wrong. I can't think of an actual single mistake or even misplaced pass from memory that he's done. He's just not Alan McGregor, which isn't a bad thing. Just the fact that we can just pick up the phone and go out and get 25-year-old Alan McGregor regen. I think we're living in fantasy land. I think McLaughlin's fine. McCrory to be the second choice, I'm absolutely okay with that as well. I don't have an issue. He was really good the 2 games that he played. I know it's a small sample size, but next year if it was McGregor and McLaughlin and McCrory, fine. The rumours of Seagreast doesn't really do anything for me. He would get in the way of McCrory's development or McCrory getting any minutes, etc. And I would prefer to have McLaughlin, given he's been here for 2 years and he's used to it, and he probably deserves a year or 2 as the number 1. So even if McGregor goes, I'm not sure it's a hugely priority position for me.
Yeah, like I say, if there is an Alan McGregor regen kicking about in a league somewhere for 2 million, brilliant.
Absolutely.
There tends not to be. Again, it's part of this thing with us that because we've got this line of, Woods, Gorham, Kloss, McGregor, that's unsustainably ludicrous. God, even teams in England with millions and millions of pounds can't boast that. It's incredible, really, when you think about it. But it does put pressure on whoever comes in. And McLaughlin, I think, has the temperament to be a Rangers goalkeeper. I think he, as I say, if we can get better, brilliant. But if not, I wouldn't be chasing him out the door. No. definitely. Gordon Robertson, what do you think of such events as the Weekend of Legends? A crowd of us are going to hospitality. Could you perhaps organise a Heart and Hand event on the day? Gordon Robertson. Well, not on the day, because it would clash. And, I wouldn't want people to have to make choices between coming to see us or going to, whatever event Rangers are running. But we'll certainly do something to celebrate the 150th, Adam. I quite like the Weekend of Legends. I think the game looks pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think it does look great. I think these events are brilliant. The more of them, the better. Absolutely.
Tommy says, what's your top 3 non-Rangers podcasts? There are other podcasts?
Yeah, I don't really know what that means. No, I'm joking. Top 3, no surprises for me. The Athletic Football Tactics podcast is really good. Michael Cox, ex of The Guardian, is on that.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, yes. Every week they do a kind of tactical breakdown of one of the Premier League teams or some sort of trend, etc., which is really good. 22 Grand Pod. I don't know if we've spoken about this one, David, but it's obviously that Rakes song from
I was going to say
years ago.
Indie music, yeah.
Yeah, it is that's basically what it is. It's a kind of look back. It is the guys from the Rakes that host it. And they look back at 2001, 2008, which is kind of me just growing up really from 16 to 25 or whatever, and they get people on. They've had Hot Heat on, the Cribs.
Oh, that takes me back.
Various other ones. Claxons, NME editor was on a couple of months ago from kind of 20 years ago as well. So I don't listen to it all the time, but I always have a good listen to it as well. It's not the Rakes, sorry, I was getting confused with the song there. It's the guys for the Paddingtons that do it. And it is quite a good listen. Other one I will go for is probably Tifo. It's more of a kind of YouTube / podcasting, but they again look at little bits and pieces from European football, mostly the Premier League, and it's available on podcast, and that's quite good as well. Just a bit more of a kind of lighter-hearted take on like the Barcelona situation or what's going on at various other clubs, and they do a sensible transfers section as well, which is really good. So they're probably my 3 that I listen to just now, but it does change a lot.
Mine's are non-football, and to put it in context, folks, I'll do 3 or 4 shows every day about football. I will, sit and talk about football pretty much all day with the people from Heart and Hand and the listeners and stuff. So at the end of the day, I'm kind of footballed out, and I'll go for history podcast generally. World War II. I'm a man in my mid-40s. Of course, it's World War II. There's a good one with James Holland and pub landlord guy. What's his name? Oh, you know the guy I mean, don't you?
Al Murray?
Al Murray. There's a World War II podcast. It's very good. There's a series by a guy called Ian Dale on the Prime Ministers of the UK, and he also does one on the presidents of the UK, but I'm such a presidential geek that I'm like, I know more about this than the experts that you get on do. So that one I sat and listened to it just to go, no, that's wrong. No, he didn't do that. No, sorry, no. But that one, and then there's one from Slate, a series called Slow Burn that does various kind of US scandals that's worth a listen as well. Ewan Third, he says, with a squad overhaul looking likely in the summer and we could lose goalkeepers, defenders, Davis and some other sales, should fans be prepared for a transitional season next season? Yeah, realistically maybe, but we're Rangers, so let's just be honest about it. Whether they should be, they won't be, end of story, I think.
Yeah, no, point of if we do it sensibly, you could hopefully not notice it. I know we've said you can put them, McGregor possibly, 2-3 centre halves, a few others, Davis, Arfield, Defoe, Morelos, Aribo, Kent, Kamara. There are possibilities around them all. In real terms, they're probably not all going to leave. You would hope they don't all leave, and it all comes down to recruitment. We've still got players there that can absolutely win us games on their own. Supplement those with some decent quality at that kind of 22 to 23 age, and I don't think, not that we would accept it anyway in terms of a transition, but I don't think it's something that we would really need to be concerned about.
It's not a word that will be applied at Rangers. Might be the case, you might say it afterwards, but During it, nah, no danger. Scott Watson, in 3 to 5 years, do you expect the Patterson sale to mark the start of a well-oiled treadmill of talent developing, getting involved in the first team squad and becoming sellable assets, whether or not they've actually been sold in that time frame, and with no expectation they would be at the same fee? Or is it a bit of a one-off? Patterson didn't go out on loan at all while he was with us. Is there a lesson to be learned from that, or was he just such an exceptional talent that there's no transferable lessons to be learned from his case? That's a great point, Scott. Yeah, ideally it's a great model, but we said for a while that Nathan Patterson is one of these generational talents that comes through. I mean, the last one really was Barry Ferguson, to be honest. And again, Barry Ferguson was a guy that Dick Advocaat saw videos of at age 18 and went, nah, he's going straight to my first team next season. That doesn't happen very often. As an exceptional player that does it. I think that if players are going to get, I think there's an age where loans stop having a use. Yeah, I don't really like guys at 22 being sent out on loan for development. It's like, come on, right? By that stage, they should be in the first team squad or they should be off ski. So I think that it's horses for courses with each individual. But I suppose the other side of that, Adam, is that are you really going to get 16 million bids or around that, or whatever, as he says, it might be for lower, for guys that, I mean, Nathan Patterson made 4 starts this season. It's incredible, really, when you look at the actual, they are buying his talent, they're not buying a demonstrable track record yet.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and I think we need to also bear in mind that fullbacks are very, very, very fashionable just now, and Scottish fullbacks are very, very, very fashionable just now, so I think there's a little bit of both there. We also never really take into account the impact of Brexit and these things. English clubs, you've seen Hibs, a couple of others doing partnerships, etc., with clubs down south. This is so that they can get British players in. So Patterson would have been ticking a lot of boxes for Everton on top of how good he is. A player like that coming through an academy in England, you're probably talking about 30 million before you even need to talk, before they even come to the table. So the fact that they can get him for 12 million going up to 16, potentially more with sell-ons is great. So that's a good benefit for us that we can have that supply chain. But in terms of that development thing, I think there's three tiers of player, probably 4 now. So you've got the B team, and then you've probably got players who we think can play a little bit further up the ladder in terms of championship, etc. And then we've got players that are probably better than that, but we're kind of starting to look to put into the shop window, maybe like McCrory and Middleton, etc., that we want to get to clubs in the SPFL. They might come back if they're young enough. They might come back and have an impact in Rangers, but generally I think that's putting those players out with a view to hopefully selling them on. And then the 4th category, which Patterson undoubtedly was in, was you don't have to go out on loan because you're good enough to play for Rangers from pretty much the first appearance that you had 2 years ago. I think it's as simple as that. There will obviously be people that might fall into a couple of those categories, and we might decide that someone's better served going out on loan. But as we've seen with Patterson, I don't think there's going to be a bigger blocker in someone's way for a youth player coming through than Tavernier was. But he gets his chance, he shows what he can do, and when he does come into the team in those rare moments that he's injured, he doesn't let himself down, and he forces his way in by any means necessary. I think it's the determination that's got him there as well as the talent. So I think that's definitely going to be a shot in the arm for the academy. Whether we can do that every year or so, I'm not really sure. The demands of being a Rangers player, I think, are great. If we got a Patterson through every 5 years, I think we would be doing fantastic personally. I'm not expecting us to see a flood of players suddenly start to appear in the Rangers first team personally. I don't have those expectations of the academy. I'm not sure if we should have, but certainly in terms of developing talent, I think we've got a decent setup there, and if we follow those tiers, and who knows, even get the B team a little bit further up the league, a little bit further up the pyramid, and start to do that ourselves, then I think we should start to see a bit more of an uptick, and we should at least start to see some more squad players coming in. But someone like Patterson, who arrives pretty much ready-made, I think if we got one of those every 5 years, it would be great. But as you said, it was 25 years between Ferguson and Patterson.
Yeah, some guys come along. Gilmer was another one, and we understand what happened there. But yeah, they don't growing trees, unfortunately. If they would, I'd be out planting several sycamores. But we'll, hopefully produce good players that some will go into the side and some will go for big money. On that, Jordan says, this is probably a question that will only be answered by hindsight, but who do you think will be the next youth academy pro to really break through into the first team? I suspect either King or Lowry.
I think it looks like King, doesn't it?
King, yeah, it does.
Certainly with the message from Ross Wilson that he'll be training with the first team. I'm not sure if it was exclusively or not, but certainly he'll be there. And obviously, we've just spoken about the defence there. There could be a gap opening up that if someone takes their chance, they could absolutely fill it in the way that Bassey and Patterson have done. So I think it would be King. Lowry, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the comments, or maybe James and Ross. I'm not sure Lowry is getting a regular game at youth level. It might be he was away in the internationals, or he might have been injured. He's certainly got lots and lots of talent, but I think he's maybe just a little bit too young and maybe too technical, if that makes sense. He would have to wait a couple of years to really kind of build himself up in the same way that Stephen Kelly has. But who knows, players can develop at different rates depending on a huge multitude of factors, but he certainly seems to get quite a bit of hype. But if I was betting on anyone coming through, I would say it would be King.
Gazmac says, I've heard a number of Rangers fans comment on Gio being an upgrade to Gerrard. What's your opinion? I personally think Gio is a more complete manager. However, he has more managerial experience than Gerrard, so that's not to say Gerrard will get to his level. Yeah, well, look, that's, there's a lot of kind of heart and emotion around about Gerrard's departure. And then the fact that Giovanni has started the way he has, which is just, honestly better than we could have asked. We're Rangers fans. We know our expectations are ludicrous at the best of times, and yet he beat them. So I can understand why people are saying that. You can be an upgrade for a situation without it being a comment on the individual manager. And by that, what I mean is, was Giovanni Van Bronckhorst the better manager for us right now, where we are? And he could well be, in the same way that would he have been a better manager for Aston Villa than Steven Gerrard is. That would be debatable as well. And I think that it's about where the club was. It's about the attitude of the manager. It's about, have the players, as we say, maybe kind of clocked off a bit. And Gerrard was struggling to get them back to the start line. He was struggling to get them up to that level, and we've seen that increase straight away. So I think it's a tough one to answer. It could just be a situation, Adam, that happens occasionally in football where maybe these were the right decisions for everybody.
Yeah, it's looking that way. I completely agree with your point. If Gerrard, as he is just now, joined Rangers 2 months ago, he may be doing the same things that Van Bronckhorst is. There was an evolution, and for me, that was the beauty of the three years under Gerrard. It was an evolution to a point. It wasn't you're coming into a really good base and you win the league after 3 years. Van Bronckhorst was coming into the best situation I can remember for a Rangers manager in Advocate.
Aye.
In terms of the quality of players that are at his disposal, the transition across the city, the carrot at the end in terms of Champions League, etc. So he's coming into very, very agreeable circumstances. Guess you could flip it around and say, would Van Bronckhorst have taken the job when Gerrard did? No,
he wouldn't have.
So Gerrard got us to the point that Van Bronckhorst is reaping the rewards, if you want to use that. But I think you're right, situation wise, where we are right now. If you look at them both as they were, things are going well. But there's a whole heap of context there that I think is missing. Whether Gerrard goes on to have more success, I'm not really sure. He will be Premier League focused, so our minds will always stray there. Van Bronckhorst might go there as well. It's really difficult to say who is a better manager than anyone for me, because the circumstances are so different. I would say what Gerrard did winning the last title would be more impressive than what Van Bronckhorst would do winning this title, I guess, if we're going to try and bring it back to a little bit of context. But that's just me personally.
But then Gio might improve us in the cups.
Exactly.
So, so there are different things for different people. Stephen Brockett, when's Hoggy and Cammy coming back? Soon, actually. Cammy very soon. And Ian is moving towards it. There's stuff in their own lives that take precedence after what they went through. So it was always, something that we had in mind. I don't believe in shooting your wounded. And yeah, keep your eyes peeled, basically, or your ears peeled, technically, I suppose would be the thing. So we wish the boys all the best, and we're looking forward to having them back on the airwaves. Graham Roy, we seem to be moving forward on and off the pitch now, and thankfully off the front pages for the wrong reasons. However, do you think that we need to try and tackle the perception of Rangers and our fans better? I get there are some people in organisations that will never change. However, should we and could we do better to help change or educate others? That's a tough one, Graham, because the question presupposes that there are people out there who are neutral and who have their mind to change. And I've always felt that within Scotland, I used to think there was this great, if we could only get to this great sort of group of people who were neutral and see what the unfair press we were getting and see who we really were, then we would change the perception. And I realised over the years that it isn't the case. That in Scotland in particular, and that's the society we're talking about, because our perception out with Scotland is radically different to the way it is inside Scotland. And that's not coincidence. It's because when people don't look through it through certain filters, they can see. But the problem you have in Scotland is you've got people who love Rangers, you've got people who hate Rangers, and you've got people who don't care. That's the issue with it. Now, given the situation in Scotland where the way that politics is set up in the country, the way that if you like, civic society is set up, then Rangers fans provide a purpose to people to push their own agendas. And that's why they are not going to change. It doesn't matter what evidence you give them. There's nothing in it for them to change. And they're not doing it because they genuinely feel that way. In some cases, it's because they absolutely hate us and they're bigots. But in other cases, it's because it's a productive area for them to achieve their goals, and that's to use us in the way that they use us as this negative, horrible force that you can blame things on. So, yes, you can try and correct it, but when minds are made up, you're talking at a wall. And in Scotland, that's the way it is, and I don't see it changing. For me, it's a case of, you absolutely, keep challenging lies, and you keep challenging untruth, and you keep exposing the hypocrisy. But when we have these massive Twitter arguments and social media debates and the newspapers chime in, does anybody's opinion ever change? Really? I would say no, Adam.
Even when it's pretty irrefutable evidence, people say, aye, but look at the Patterson stuff, for example.
Yeah.
Fabrizio Romano coming out and saying, no, it's this. No, it's no. No, you're making that up. Sorry. That's a lie. It can't be that. People want to believe stuff.
When his agent said,
well,
how would you know? I'd negotiated the flooding deal.
People, we always talk about this. It's no longer, you don't have to be right now. You just have to say something, and it has an impact, and people want to believe something. And I'm sure there are people out there that want to believe things so much that they've convinced themselves that they're the truth. I don't think you change or educate those people. I don't think they really want to. I don't think we should be wanting to either. Personally, there will be people that will never agree with us, and I don't really have a problem with that. That's okay. What we should do, as you said, is continue to highlight the hypocrisy, and I think we do a very good job of that on Twitter, etc. We do that a lot, highlighting that hypocrisy, and every so often it does seem to catch a bit of interest from down south, etc., which shows kind of how strange things are up here. But in terms of olive branches, etc., I don't think anybody really wants that, if I'm honest.
No, and I mean, one of the reasons I started Heartland, and it's got us in trouble a few times, is never be on our knees to people that hate us. That's not something that we do here. We don't do, we can make a lot of money if we did the Arsenal fan TV shite, and come laugh at our pain, but it's not who we are. So I'm the same. It's like, if anyone has an open mind and wants to have a chat, brilliant. Our Rangers fans are up for that. If they're just people with their own prejudices and they decide they don't like us and that they'll judge a whole group of people from a cross-section of society based on the team they go and watch on a Saturday, then to hell with them, and they'll be treated with the contempt they deserve, frankly. Andy McKellar, if Gio is given funds this January, Adam, what area of the team do you think is the biggest priority to strengthen?
For about the 10th transfer window in a row, I'm going to say, can I please have a number 8? Thanks. Box-to-box midfielder who can score goals and create, please, would be key. Preferably someone that can also shoot from outside the box. Basically, can I have George Albert's back? It's been 20 years and
yeah. Could we have George Albert's back? Could we DNA clone him or something?
We really should. I think we really have to at this point.
Yes.
Scott Arfield. That's the reason I'm quite big on Scott Arfield. He does well, but last year we got 3 or 4 months out of him. This year, 3 or 4 games, I think, before he started to dip a little bit. That's not to say he won't come back into it in 2022, but he was pretty good for that kind of couple of games under Van Bronckhorst, and then maybe faded a little bit. We can't.
Is it perhaps a guide then that the fact that straight away he went into the team under Gio? So maybe Gio wants someone who can do that if Scott can't do it for the full season.
Hopefully that would be my target. I know that we need goals, and we don't not score goals, if that makes sense, but we could score a lot more. And I think most people are thinking if we can get someone in to play that wide right position that will be able to bag 15, 20 goals a season, then great. I would counter that by saying whether he's fit or not, Kemar Roofe will score 15 or 20 goals a season anyway. Therefore, that is a little bit of a moot point. But I do take it overall. But having someone who can link play like that from deep in Aribo is doing very well at that just now, in terms of being that kind of number 8 at some stages and moving to be a number 10. But I do think we need another one there that we can rely on. If you have that, then opportunities are happening further up the park, and those players such as Morelos and Kent and Aribo will be receiving the ball in better positions because they've got someone that is going to carry it up to them. So I think that is a gap for us. We have had a few players come in that we thought could do the job there, but we haven't actually had anyone come in that I don't think. Are we still at the stage where we've not spent, I've lost track, where we've not spent money on a central midfielder outside of Glenn Kamara? There might be someone obvious that I'm missing, but we need a bit of cash in there. And like I said, someone coming in who's 22, 24, who is named Joey Veerman before he moves.
Yeah, I was going to say, before he moved to PSV, Adam, heartbroken, along with several of my friends. So basically what you're accusing there is a cow's logic. I heard you drop that in there.
Yes.
It's moo.
It's a moo point, yeah.
It's a moo point. There's a 90s reference for everyone. Yeah, right winger for me, please. Thank you. That'd be nice. An actual, not a wide forward, not a right winger, please. Thank you. That'd be great if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Right, we'll finish up then. Last one. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question. Hope you've been entertained nonetheless. But time is catches up with us all, doesn't it? Douglas McIntosh says Celtic shat it and kicked the Old Firm game down the road. However, they've been able to do that thanks to compliant SPFL and SFA, not to mention a lapdog press. What has to happen to bring real change in the game? Can it actually be done where the people running things do so for the good of the game, not for the benefit of one team? Hadn't happened in my lifetime, really. I think that it's not so much for one team. It is now, but it wasn't for years. But there's always vested interests. There's always, because you're drawing people from clubs. That was the whole idea of having someone like Doncaster, who's supposed to be a neutral chief executive, who doesn't have a dog in the fight. But of course, we know what's happened there because of the way that the politics of the situation is developed. I'd love to see it, Adam, but I think we might be kind of utopian in that belief.
Yeah, no, I can't see it. There's obviously lots of restructures, etc., that we could do. Again, from memory, did we had a couple of restructure pods, did we not, in the past?
We did.
Yeah, I think Stephen Harrigan might have been involved in them. There's all sorts of things that could be done, but I think ultimately with these things, and it's the same as the point before, people need to want it to happen. There's a lot of self-interest out there. Rangers, we're only interested in Rangers ourselves, and how is this going to benefit Rangers? Putting this type of real change, what has to happen to bring about real change in the game? Lots and lots and lots of money has to happen, I think, is the option. If someone comes and says, we're going to give you £300 million a season, but you need to play a game in the moon, I guarantee you Scottish clubs would be doing it. That's the only way that things are going to change, and we're going to get things structured, and we're going to get proper leadership into Scotland. And in my opinion, right now, bowling club mentality, rules, we're looking out for, everyone's looking out for themselves. There might be a couple of clubs that can band together, etc., but someone coming in with money, whether it's a Sky deal or something like that, to say, let's do this, let's restructure, let's go to an 18-team league. Here's the benefits of it. It's going to be a loss leader for a bit, but we reckon we can grow it to this level based on this, based on that. Here's money for academy, all that sort of stuff. That's the only way there's actually going to be tangible stuff. Everything else is just window dressing, I think.
You see what happens. You're a hugely successful sports promoter. Barry Hearn comes up to Scotland with loads of good ideas, and they send them packing because they've threatened their comfy wee rut. That's so. There's a decision straight away. And equally, just to show that we can at least try and step back and look at it honestly. Look at the reaction from us as a support about the winter shutdown being moved. It was 10-2. The clubs voted, and Rangers fans were still upset and saying, conspiracy and whatnot. Now, part of that is because of what's happened in the past, but it was 10-2. That I don't think in any organisation, if there was a vote between a 12-person organisation and it was 10-2, that anybody would say that it's a shock that that's what happened. Now, you can say about the reasons for it. I note a lot of players are going out on loan from Celtic, but even so, that's kind of the situation, because we obviously wanted what was best for us. And all the other clubs are exactly the same. They want what they perceive to be. Now, we might know that what they perceive to be best for them probably isn't. They never seem to learn the lessons of getting into bed with one particular club. It rarely ends well for them. But even so, that's what you're going to get. And that's why you need, in an ideal world, a kind of strong, neutral organisation who do genuinely just say, no, we're doing what we perceive to be the best. But as I say, I've never seen one, so I don't know if we'll get one along. Right, thank you to everyone who sent in a question. I'm really sorry if we didn't get to yours, but I would just like to say thank you to everyone whose question we did do, because they were a very, very high standard. Adam, I thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, very much so. It was really good. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure, folks. We'll be back next week when, of course, we'll be looking ahead to the Aberdeen match as Rangers return, and hopefully we get our heads down and go all the way to the title. If you want to join us on Heart and Hand, you would have been able to participate in this, and you know what to do. Go to heartandhand.co.uk for all the information on how to sign up, and if you want to just cut out that, if you're confident you can negotiate it, just go to patreon.com/heartandhand and sign up for just $1.99 per month, not week, month. You'll be able to get up to 30 hours of shows every single week. Trust me, we cover all things Rangers. As Adam said there, I think we did a show on that. We did. Right, there's a show on everything in there. You name it, we've got it. We've even got an interview with throw-in coaches, for crying out loud, right? Go and have a look. It's the best money you'll spend this miserable January. Thanks to our executive producers in London, Mike Lee and Paul Myers. I'll talk to you again this time next week, everyone. Stay safe. Bye-bye.